here we are, Tom Dixon Space at Super Studio Più, April 2010, and Tom Dixon in Flesh and Bones. Born in Sfax, Tunisia, 1959. You're in your 50s, boy, huh?
Yeah, like
anyway.
Elvis.
Yeah, I've known this man for a long time. I really love this man. He's got clear ideas about everything. Since he was sleeping in his car in London because he didn't have a place where to sleep, and since you know, I always imagine Tom like a rock and roll band himself. You know, even if he just plays the bass, but. That's his approach to everything. That's his approach to life. He learned how to weld only because he wanted to repair the broken pieces of his motorbikes. He basically plays the things he creates like instruments. I mean, he's really a rock and roller, definitely. And the look is rock and roll, because look at his red socks. And then, you know, I wrote somewhere that the only decoration that he can accept is his gold tooth. Isn't it fantastic? He has been having it for so many years. But really, it must be where 50 Cent is, the rappers. I mean, Tom comes first. Anyway, in the 80s, with Nigel Coates and Ronara, they were really the wild boys in London. And all the aesthetics that came out from there was an aesthetic that really was clashing the whole environment of furniture.
I thought this was an interview.
It is an interview, but this is just the preview of the interview. Okay. So then he became more bourgeois. I mean, he's got two daughters, one is 17, the other is 14. He has a big company now, and you know, when in 2002 he established the company, he was saying, Fabio, because the name is the brand. The name is the brand. If you want to make a brand Tom Dixon, like the fashion designers, they do it. Why shouldn't I? And so after 8 years, which balance can you trace of this adventure?
Well, it's starting to work, yeah? I mean, I think that the problem for designers in our environment, which is furniture, lighting, product, is that we act as a service rather than owning the equity ourselves, right? So if you look at all the Italian companies, what was exciting 20 years ago when Capellini started putting together lots of different designers with different nationalities and aesthetics to get a stable of designers, is no longer exciting, really. I think that if you've got Magis and Capellini and Vitra, all with the same designers, one French, one Brazilian, one German, one English, you end up all looking the same. So from a kind of branding and also from creating a world perspective, creating an aesthetic which is understandable, it's not really a sustainable model for furniture industry. And what I'm trying to do really is just a very simple thing, which is to just try and hold my ideas under one umbrella so that people can understand my communication and, you know, my points of view.
So all the pieces in the Tom Dixon label are all designed by you?
They're all designed by me and my studio and produced by us in factories all over the world and distributed by us. So we hold...
I read in 52 countries you're selling now, right?
That's right, yeah. And we manufacture maybe in 6 or 7 countries, and it's starting to work really well.
I mean, for example, Tom, another friend of ours started his own company, and his name is Marcel Wanders, and his company is Moy. Mm-hmm. Which are the main differences, you think, between Tom Dixon, the brand, and Moy, the brand?
Well, Moy is very much Marcel's point of view, but it's not really a lot of his design. It's a collection of designers that work under the Moy aesthetic, if you like, or are selected because they fit in with the Moy aesthetic. The difference is that I think that we're still in this position where in Moy the objects speak for themselves as individuals, and in my collection I can create a world which is a universe, if you like, which is my personal point of view, right? And like I say, from a even from a business point of view, it makes things much simpler. It actually makes things a lot faster as well, because I can just act on my own fantasies, if you like. And that's what I've been trying to do, is to get to a point where I don't depend on other people. So a good example is that the last project I ever did for an Italian company is Magis, right? So I did a chair which came out this year, but it's taken
it's very beautiful. I saw it.
5 years of development because I was not in control. This lamp that you see over here took 5 weeks, right? From the idea with the digital manufacturing in the UK, not that one, this one. Manufacturing here in Italy in the studio, and then selling directly to the customer, the design tourist that you see everywhere here. And that's more what I'd like to do, is to be able to have a platform where I can act when I feel like it, when I feel the timing is right, and make decisions.
In the intentions that you describe on your website, you say that you would like to point out an English aesthetic. To go back to British values in the aesthetic. You really think so, or this is more of a world vision that you have?
Well, I think it's the problem with being a British designer is that it's very hard to define now. I mean, maybe 100 years ago, 150 years ago, it would probably been a lot easier to define what British design really looked like as an aesthetic. At the moment, I think I'm quite interested in national identities anyway, and it's clear to me that there still is, very strong kind of sensibility which comes from your background, right, where you've lived and the influences that you've absorbed. But the British aesthetic doesn't really exist, so I'm trying to reinvent it in a way, using, my memories of the past and what I think a British company should act like in the future, right? I think the Dutch are very good at setting a modern Dutch aesthetic, for instance, and the Italians have been genius at doing it maybe probably 20 or 30 years ago, and certainly 50 years ago, right? So there's still, and you can see a Japanese and an Asian aesthetic coming through really strongly at the moment. So I'm interested in that partly because of my relationship with Artec and trying to define, from the UK, a Finnish aesthetic or a Nordic aesthetic, if you like. And I think it's good to have a sense of home, if you like.
Yeah, in fact, I would say that even though you have a strong link with the Italian companies, then in order to collaborate, you chose the northern part of Europe, probably because they're more serious in a way. I mean, Tom is art director of Habitat for 13 years now.
No, I stopped that 6 years ago. It was 6 years that I'm no longer.
And now Artec.
Artec I stopped last year. I'm now just on the board member. No, it's me.
So it's completely focused.
Me.
That's very good. And what about Tom? If I ask you a question, I mean, don't you think that Moi, in a way, testifies our time stronger than Tom Dixon label? No, I mean, you're smart and we are friends and you're clever. That's why I ask you such a question, because it looks provocative, but it's not.
That's an unfair question.
I mean, a symphony.
Because they're friends and they're competition, and of course I think that we signify the modern times much better than Moi. I mean, I think to a certain extent everything that I've explained to you, which is that I think purity is important right now. I think that acting quickly is important. I think that being able to communicate simply is important. It's much easier to do if you're a single designer working in your own environment than it is if you're trying to manage 20 other points of view from other designers. And I've been, I've done also art direction, and I know that it's a great thing to do. It allows you to have much more critical mass. Established and Son are another example of exactly this, right? Where you get many different opinions under the same umbrella and try and mould them into a specific story. But I can do things in a much simpler fashion. At the moment, we're smaller business than mine, but you'll see maybe in 2 or 3 years that maybe you'll change your mind.
And Tom, I definitely hope. And